Welcome to Vibrant Living Conversations. I'm your host, Gemma. As a life coach to midlife mamas and women, I'm excited to bring these conversations from North Idaho and across this region to support you on your journey to vibrant living, glowing from the inside out, fully living in your own true to you power.
For this interview, I am talking with Sarah Gettis, nutrition and health coach. I'm thrilled to have her here today to learn more about her coaching and how she helps women conquer their health goals. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yay! Well, let's dive in. Let's start with, health and wellness, nutrition. There's across the board so many different ways of how people can nourish their bodies. So what are kind of some of your beliefs in health and wellness and nutrition in general? Big question, I know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I think they're so closely related to each other. And it's interesting because I started out as a nutrition coach at nutrition solely because number one, I love food. And number two, I just love the science behind it. And I love what food can do for our bodies, looking at it from an athletic performance or just a performance perspective. But in becoming a nutrition coach, it was and getting my certification in nutrition and coaching, it became very clear to me, even though I kind of already knew this, but that the health component, our mental health, our emotional health, our relational health, there's kind of this concept of this whole body health, our environmental health, all of those things that are so closely related to our nutrition as well, and how they are hand in hand. And so for me, it's kind of looking at this biopsychosocial model where you have this biological level of what we eat goes into our bodies, and it does so many different things to our brain and our emotions and hormones. And then it does certain things rebuilds our muscles, which is really cool. But it also has this social aspect of it where when you sit down, you share a meal with somebody like your family, it also creates memories and nostalgia. And so it feels a little bit like everything to me. And that's kind of how I like to look at it, from all different angles. Yeah.
No, that's so powerful. That's well said. And I think, I may have told you this before, but I started studying gut health, which is how I discovered coaching and life coaching. And the same thing, you're food is one thing and what we're putting into our body, but all of the other factors play into it. Exactly like you were just saying, you can't really just support someone in putting food into their body without addressing all of the other factors, right? Because if they're trying to avoid gluten, but every time they go to dinner with their family, someone's but they're feeling like they need to eat the pizza. There's going to be this disconnect because of that social piece, which is so important too. So I love exactly all of that. Love it. So how your journey to getting here, you studied, like you said, you studied coaching and nutrition, but on a personal level, what has been your journey in, do you prefer meat or vegetarian? And I know weightlifting is a big part of your life too. So what's your personal journey to get you to this point?
And I love answering this question because for me, it really started in the womb when I was a baby. So
I love that.
My grandfather, my mom's dad, bought a restaurant, way back in the day, long before I was born.
Nice.
Well, actually, he used to manage a restaurant, and then he bought a restaurant in Spokane, Washington, where I was born and raised. And my mom, when she was in college, or when she graduated from college, she went to go help manage the restaurant with her dad, my grandfather. And she ended up working there her whole life. And eventually, when my grandfather passed away and my grandmother, she ended up owning the restaurant. When my mom was pregnant with me, she was working there. And when I was born, I was just going into this restaurant all the time. And
love it.
I remember being a small child, and I would go to the restaurant all the time, and I would chase the waitresses around, and I would try to help them with their side work. And we still own the restaurant to this day. In fact, I just ate there last week with my aunt.
What is it called?
The Sportsman's Cafe.
Okay, awesome.
Nice. So I'm going to be 38 this week. So we've had the restaurant family for, like almost 50 years, I think,
Wow.
if not longer. And so, yeah, so I feel like I was just born into food, and
Yes.
our family, but our family also came from the generation where we were like the clean plate club, where it was like you had to eat all of your food on your plate in order to get dessert. And there was always dessert, which, so in that sense, like I don't really prescribe to that ideology, but yeah, my family has always been big foodies, and I've always loved food. But then, I had this journey of, having to eat all of the food when I was a kid. Like you had to clean up your plate, because food costs money and people worked for that. And so there was no waste. And then in my teens and early 20s, I loved food, but I ate a lot of like fast food. And I remember my first attempts at trying to like quote unquote like eat healthy when I was in my mid 20s. And what I would do is I would like bake chicken breasts with like no seasoning, and I would like steam veggies, and it was so bland and so gross. What I imagine a lot of other people think is that eating healthy has to be really bland and not taste good and really plain. But I lived in Seattle at that time as well. And so when I got more into my mid and late 20s, I was really exposed to going to like work parties and having dinner parties and things like that, and just all of the varieties of different food that there are out there, and learning how to cook in a way that was delicious and tasty and fun, but also really clean and healthy.
Love that. How did you do that? Actually, let's talk about that, because I think I'm kind of in the same boat, like definitely part of the clean plate club. Like still to this day, my brothers and I are like, they're like getting bread and like mopping up. So the plate is like literally clean. It's like, that's exactly like you said, that's how you were raised. And it's interesting now raising children, which we'll get into that more later, how you're going to raise well and how that's a whole nother thing, right? Being the mom.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But getting people look at me all the time and are like, how do you cook? How do you do it? How do you cook? Like nowadays, it's so easy to get takeout and order fast food, or all of the things. So what did you do to learn how to cook clean and delicious?
Yeah, I'm not as good as some where they're just kind of creative with meals. Like I can throw things together for sure, and I can get into that, but I'm big on like searching for recipes. And although I wouldn't say that I am a paleo eater, I don't like solely subscribe to that. I eat a lot of grains, and I'll eat gluten and things like that. But I feel like paleo for me is a good search term to pull up recipes that are going to have a whole lot of whole ingredients in them. And generally, they're going to try and be on the lower end of adding in extra oils or extra creams or processed foods. And they're going to be pretty veggie heavy.
Yes.
And so
I'm on the same page for sure.
Yeah, it's a key word that like any given week, I've got a specific day of the week, and sometimes two, where I'm like, okay, like we need groceries. So that means I also have to think about what meals I'm going to be making for the next X amount of days. And I just ask myself, like, what sounds good? Like, what do I want to eat? And I have like a whole slew of recipes in my email that like I can search through. Or if something just kind of sounds good, then I'll kind of search for that. Or if I know that I have very little time, then I'm going to search for Instapot recipes. And then
I love this.
A dual process of finding my recipe and then also making a grocery list, ordering the groceries.
Just like setting yourself up for success, really, right? It's not an option, right? We're all eating multiple times a day. And I love that piece about what do I want to eat? Sometimes we talk about, Mark and I are like, maybe we should get takeout. And I'm like, what is it that I'm craving that would appeal there? And it's like, oh, I can make it at home and probably make it for 3 nights in a row if that's what I really want, and make it clean and really be in control of what ingredients are in it. And even the process of, oh, I made it for myself for me is really empowering. Like I really enjoy doing that. So yeah, setting yourself up for success. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, what's empowering is feeling like, for me, food, especially with my family, is like a way that I show love. So my husband does not cook. And so it's one of the things that I really enjoy doing for him and for my daughter when she will eat. I feel like it's my way of like not only nourishing their bodies, but like nourishing their souls, and saying, I'm making this for you. I'm helping give you something that's good for you. And I did this action. Like it's an act of kindness.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes. And to think that way, right? To really think that way. It's so easy to be like, what are we eating for dinner tonight? Let's fly. And we all do it. We still all
Yeah.
do it, right? Like, let's go
Yeah.
take out. It's fun. But to like on the daily be like, I am nourishing your mind, body, soul with this gift. I love that because it's become such a not part of the culture. I feel like food has, in some capacity, has lost that like nourishment on all levels. It's become kind of we just need to do it, fly through.
Yeah.
It's just convenient. It's like, but no, on so many levels, it is nourishing the depths of who we are, right?
Right. Well, and when we're less mindless about it, when we're really mindful about what we eat, I think we're able to connect with other people better, like sitting down and talking with them.
Yes.
We'll eat slower, we'll enjoy the flavors. And when you do that, I mean, like, yeah, there's this like enjoyable experience that you have both socially and mentally and emotionally. But biologically, also, your body is going to like absorb more nutrients when you eat that way as well. So it's like on so many different levels, it's like healthier for you to be mindful about it than how fast can I eat this meal in front of the TV or in front of my phone,
Yeah, totally. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So that's like the food piece of it. But I know you really enjoy lifting and you're really active in many other ways. So what's your story there?
Yeah. So also again, when I lived in Seattle, I used to rock climb a lot. And that's kind of when I got introduced to the concept of eating for performance. Rock climbing is more of a strength to weight ratio type sport. So I think at that time, I was much more into trying to stay lean, but still be strong. It's more geared towards like maintaining a smaller body weight, but still eating like lots of protein and lots of foods that would still keep me nourished and free from injury. I had a whole community that was kind of surrounded in the same idea and concept. And that's kind of when I got into learning how to track my food. I'm a big fan of what they call calorie counting. And it's not in a way where I'm like nitpicking at my food or like I need to be skinny. In fact, I eat tons of carbohydrates. I eat lots of carbs. Carbs are super good for your body.
Yep.
And I eat actually like a lot of food. You'd be surprised at like how many calories I eat in a day.
But I think to your point before, though, it's like calories and carbs are not all equal, right?
Yeah.
Like calorie counting, but your basis is real food that it's a carb, but a carb isn't a carb isn't a carb. It's like you're eating real whole foods that are nourishing, right? That's supporting your body. Yeah, I love that.
Right. Like, so for instance, something I would have done then and I do now, I actually did this morning. So I made, because it's good to have a lot of carbs before you work out, like that fuels your workout and it helps you recover better. And so I made like this really delicious pumpkin loaf bread with almonds and cranberries in it. And it had maple syrup and stuff in it. And I made that this week solely for the purpose so I could eat a piece of it before I work out every week or every day.
I love that.
And so,
and you can look forward to it, right? You're like,
yeah,
this isn't a Cliff Bar. This is like something similar, but that I've made myself with my own ingredients and it's pumpkin season anyway, like yum, 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 and yum. And then you're fueled for your workout. So
yeah. And then you get to go into the workout. You don't feel tired or depleted or hungry. And actually, you perform a lot better when you have that, in your body. So it's kind of a win-win situation. Yeah. So I was introduced to that kind of concept back in Seattle. And now that I weight lift, it's a different kind of strength to weight ratio sport where in theory, like the more weight you have, the more weight you can lift. Now, granted, you don't want to have excessive body fat. So I'm more towards like, let's build some muscle on my body. And again, that requires eating a lot of food. So I'm super food friendly, and I've learned how to balance what it is with having a healthy body weight with, being able to perform successfully at whatever athletic endeavor it is without getting injured, and not gaining a bunch of body fat.
Well, that kind of plays into even our next question, because it's like, what struggles do you see the most with your clients from Western norms? And I think just to go back on what you said there, is deprivation, I think, is one that I see. It's like, it's not about depriving yourself. Like, you don't want to feel hungry. You want to be nourished from protein and the right type of food. So it's not about eating less necessarily. It's just about, I'll let you talk because you can talk to this more than I can.
Well, yeah. And I remember when you had asked me that question, or I saw it, and I was like, yeah, I think a lot of it is this idea that we need to be on a diet, and the word diet for most people triggers the idea of like restrictive eating or not eating much or like not eating carbs. And we also have this idea where things need to happen fast. I want to lose X pounds in X weeks, whatever. Or, I have people that come to me, and after a month, sometimes if they haven't made like the progress that they think they should have made, they feel really disappointed. And for me, granted, I don't want my clients to stick with me forever. I feel like I can give them skill sets so that they can end our coaching relationship and move on successfully. But health is a journey, and it's going to be a lifelong journey. It doesn't have to be a lifelong struggle, but it's a lifelong journey, and that goals change, life happens, and we move back and forth. Different seasons of our life happen. And so, like when I was in rock climbing, I wanted to be a little bit leaner and lighter, and now I want more muscle. But the concept is there. I still show up every day, and I have to meal plan, and I have to cook, and I have to look at what I eat, and I want to get enough fruits and vegetables in and enough protein in. And it's a journey. And so it's not going to happen overnight. Like right now, a lot of my goals right now are to put on more muscle mass. I lost some of that being pregnant. I don't see that as any sort of setback or having fallen off the wagon or any of that stuff. That's just life. And like now I'm back to building muscle mass, and it's going to take time. I can't.
It's such a mindset thing. I mean, your mindset is obviously I love that so much. It is a journey. Life is a journey of ebbing and flowing and evolving with the different chapters, exactly like you said. And of course, with us both being pregnant in the last year and now having baby and breastfeeding, and you're listening to your body, like it's a whole new thing where you're like, okay, what does she need? What does my body need? What does she need to nourish her workout wise, all of those things. And then we're going to get older, and our metabolism is going to not be what it was. And there's always going to be something, but creating that journey, healthy relationship and mindset that you just talked about there is the key to food isn't the enemy. It's a beautiful balance of just realizing what works for you in this part of your life, right?
Yeah, it could shift and change. I will say though that I don't think that, especially with like the problems with Western society, I don't think that anybody should ever feel super deprived or really hungry and can't function in order to lose weight. Like that is not, in my mind, healthy, nor is it necessary to like get to your goals, right?
Or sustainable, right? I feel like if there's anything that's not sustainable, if you need to cut some food out, not even cut it out, like if you're going to try to cut it out and then binge on it in 2 weeks because you just crave it that much, like that's not healthy. Just minimize, right? It's all about the balance and creating sustainability and a long-term healthy relationship with food and your body. So yeah, life shouldn't be a struggle, right?
No, absolutely not. No, food shouldn't be the enemy for sure. Yeah.
So Sarah, do you mostly work?
And some of that's changing a little bit. I was talking with my husband about this at dinner the other night because I'm getting my certification for personal training, and I've got a couple clients that I'm working with under the supervision of a trainer.
Awesome.
It's funny because like I think right now it varies so much. I would say it's predominantly women, although I do work with men, usually people who want to lose weight, but I've worked with people that are like, I want to lose 10 pounds, and people that are like, I want to lose 100 pounds. I like working with everybody. And I think that my plans work well with any type of person, because a lot of them it's all holistic and habit based. Kind of been a wide variety. Although I will say that, especially now that with the training, like I love weight training, but it doesn't even have to be necessarily like weight training, just resistance, whether it's bands or body weight or whatever. I love the idea of helping people, especially women and moms, work towards like a whole body strength and stability, because I think that helps us the long term in our bodies, just feel really strong, really empowered, a lot of self-confidence. But also as we age with women, like you don't want to be imbalanced. I think that's going to cause health issues. As we get older, we're more likely to fall or get injured. And if we want to play around with our kids and our grandkids, you want like your whole body to be strong. You want to have a strong core. You want like all of your little muscle fibers and your big ones and all those things to be stable and be able to be actively engaged when need be. So I think as far as training goes, like I would love to work with people in some sort of capacity with resistance training. And when it comes to like nutrition, like anybody that just really wants to go along for the journey, to have sustainable habits to keep for the long term. I'm not going to probably be the person to come to when you're like, I want to lose 30 pounds and then whatever, like, and I'm going to go off the rails or whatever. So, yeah.
So what can they expect when they work with you? Because obviously we've talked about you're completely holistic, which I love, mind, body, soul. It's all plays into setting yourself up for long-term success. Yeah. So how does a coaching program with you look?
They're really flexible too. Like I feel like the way I have it set up, it's pretty individualistic. Like I don't run people through a mill. Generally speaking, though, when people come to me, I try and teach them a few different methods of how to monitor their food intake, right? Like we all need to learn how to know how to eat to maintenance, or if we wanted to lose a few pounds, like how do we do that? Right. And it should be a method that's sustainable and changeable for our goals, right? So if you come to me and you're like, I want to lose X amount of weight, I can teach you a variety of methods to do that. And then we can use those same methods to maintain your weight. And learning how to eat at maintenance to maintain a weight is a huge skill. And that's really what I want to get people to, is like healthy body weight. And then how do we maintain that? So I teach people how to do that in a few different methods, because not every method is ideal for everybody. So you're going to pick one that you like, but you also got a few different tools in your toolbox. Cool. And then we also work through a variety of different habits. We work through stress management, we work through recovery, we work through hydration, we work through different things like protein and whatnot, sleep. So then we work through all the habits to try and get you that holistic, like whole body health at someone's pace too. Like I'm not going to run somebody through the mill and be like, okay, it's, Tuesday, we're going to do this. It's like, where are you at? Where are you feeling this? Like, is this working for you? Like, how can I help you through this? Do we feel like we've mastered this habit? Are we ready to take on something else?
I love that. Awesome. So how often generally then do you meet, and is it in person, online, an hour? How long do you like to do it?
I meet with my clients once a week on the phone, usually for about 10, 15 minutes, depending on what's going on. What I've found is that most people want that either Zoom or phone call, like that time to hear a voice, and that helps them stay on track. So we have a phone call once a week, same time every week.
Nice. Perfect. And then like you can look forward to it. And I found with coaching too, it's just having someone that you can talk to specifically, and the time for you to think specifically, like, okay, I'm going to talk with Sarah about what I've been eating, how it's been going. It keeps you so on track, right? I love that.
Yeah, I think so. People seem to respond really well to that and do a lot better since they changed that. And again, having a coach too is like, it's a relationship, right? Like a lot of it is the relationship. And so I want to connect with my clients and hear what's going on with them and hear like their struggles and their wins and hear if their kid, won an award that week, because
Yeah.
the closer we feel to each other, the more vulnerable we can be, the more successful we can be as well on either end.
Totally. And realizing that that all plays into each other, right? If you're, whatever your kid's up to is playing into probably whether you want to emotionally eat that day or not, right? And
Yes.
realizing that that emotional piece,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
okay, this is a trigger for you. Like, let's address this. And
Gosh.
you're set up for the next time. And love that.
I don't know how many times I feel like I've talked about like sick kids. When kids are sick, it's like, okay, how are we going to try and squeeze in an extra 15 minutes of sleep?
Right.
If we can, yeah, like how do we eat healthy when our kid just wants to eat saltines and is crying and. So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, let's go down that path for a second because you work a lot with women. I'm totally stereotyping right now. I know plenty of men that do all of the cooking at their house, but you're working with one member of a family. I'll start with that. So whether it's mom or the dad, but they might have kids or their spouse and maybe not necessarily all on the same page. How have you helped clients like navigate that?
I think it's something that I address in my health assessment very much from the beginning. As a question is like, how much does your environment support you, like your social, like whether it's like your nuclear family, like your significant other and your kids, or whether it's your extended family, especially now that we have the holidays coming up.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, it's a tough one, I've got a client right now where her husband eats fast food all the time, and so we do talk about that. Like, how do you stay on track if your husband isn't going to come along on the journey with you? Because I like to have people from the get-go tell their significant others and their family, like, hey, I'm going on this journey, please support me. And this is what support looks like.
Love
These
it.
are the things that I would like from you to help me, do that.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to join me on the journey, at least you can give me these supportive actions. And so, and that's all about like creating boundaries, and having healthy relationships, self-efficacy, being able to have some autonomy. And those are all important things that we need to have as individuals. You and your significant other are not always going to be on the same page about everything, right? So how do you keep your own boundaries around yourself and stay true to yourself? How do you place a priority on your own health? And so they're really important conversations to have. And there's a lot of strategy around that as well. Like, okay, you're going to eat these foods, but like, please don't keep these foods in the house. These are my red foods. Or like, you want to eat out, that's okay. Like, how does dinner look tonight? Because I'm going to want to be at home to cook my food or whatever. Please just pick up takeout only for yourself. I'm going to be at home and make my meal. We can still sit down and eat together.
Yeah.
Different things like that. So yeah, really troubleshooting like how that's going to look if your person's not going to come on that journey with you.
Do you have an example of one or two clients that you have really, you've seen them like turn a complete 180? And I'm sure it happens with a lot, but just, I love a good example of, to share with everybody.
So I had this client, Joy, and oh, man, I just really loved working with her, and she met her goals. And so she transitioned on, but when she came to me, she had put on some weight. It was around COVID time, and she had a lot of stress going on in her life. Her significant other wasn't working, and they would drink quite a bit of alcohol on the weekends and during the week. And so, but she wanted to get back into shape and get back into like mountain biking. And so we just worked really hard on different methods for food intake. She was gradually able to get her weight down. And it was funny because I'm a big protein fan. I love protein and I feel like nobody eats enough of it. Protein was a big one that I felt so proud because she was like, oh my gosh, you want me to eat this much protein? And I was like, yes, and so she was getting there and she was, oh my gosh, I am so full. The weight is coming off. Like, I have so much energy. I never thought that protein was going to be this important to me. But she also like really cut back in her alcohol intake and she became just a lot happier. Like, you could constantly hear it each week in her voice. Her self-confidence in herself like just skyrocketed. And what was beautiful was she had done like before and after photos. And so when I put them side by side, I sent it to her and it was like the after photo. Like, yeah, she was down in weight, but her glow in her and her happiness, and like she was like flexing her muscles and looking good. And she just felt so confident and happy in herself. And she felt very ready to move on, to do it on her own. And that's what really felt good, is that when she, left coaching, she was like, I feel very confident in my abilities to maintain the progress that I've made. It was like beautiful.
So powerful. Yes. You're like, as a coach, that is like your goal. I love that so much. And that piece you said of when people don't have to think about, they're filling themselves up with good food, protein. And I get that question a lot too. More protein, really? More protein? If you're feeling full, you're not constantly, your brain doesn't need to start thinking about, well, what snack am I going to have? Or what else am I going to have? Oh, I'll just have another glass of wine because my stomach is still not. You suddenly realize it's just not the focus. You have more clarity to think about all of the other awesome things in life and not what am I going to consume next, right?
Right. Well, and what protein does for our bodies is so beneficial. All of the things that it does inside, which is like a big sciencey thing, is really, really important. And so I think people find that their body functions also a lot better when they increase their protein intake. And if they're doing any sort of exercise, like they find that they just feel like they've recovered better, like they feel stronger going into those workouts. They feel more solid, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure. Random question for you, and this is on a personal note. I've been asked this a few times, but what is your thoughts on protein powders? I mean, obviously protein powders are not all created equal either, but do you consume them? Do you suggest your clients have them as part of their diet?
It depends. Again, like this is all like individual. I feel like in the perfect world, we would all get enough protein and it would be from a whole food source. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Do I use protein powders? Yes. One of the reasons and times that I have them, for instance, so when I work out at home because I have a gym at home, and I'll work out like first thing in the morning. And so I will use a protein powder in a smoothie because I want those nutrients to enter my body quickly and be going through me fast,
Right.
So if I go on the opposite end, like a steak or something, it's going to take a while for that to break down my body and fuel me. It's not going to fuel that workout. Right. So I'll use it for that. I think there's a good time and a place for it. And then the other thing is for clients, again, because not everybody, sometimes I have clients that come to me that have like only been eating takeout, that don't cook, that don't like to cook, that don't really have a lot of base knowledge in how much protein they should have, right? And sometimes I have clients that come to me and they have a lot, they already like cook a lot, they already meal plan and prep, they know a lot about like what kind of foods are good to eat and this and that. So it kind of depends on a client's abilities and knowledge. And so if somebody is trying to transition from takeout to eating at home and they're like really low on protein, I might suggest like a protein powder as kind of like a stepping stone to get there. So it depends on the person.
Yeah. And like you said, the situation, right? Sometimes a protein powder, it's easier. It might be easier depending on the situation. But yeah, okay. That's interesting to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, just in staying balanced for yourself, and specifically, you're a new mom and we're going into the holidays. So let's talk specifically even about going into the holidays and being a mom. How are you finding balance in having a little fun, eating here and there, getting your workouts in? What are your tips?
So I think with the holidays, one of the best tips I have is to plan ahead. We know we have Thanksgiving coming up. We know we've got Christmas. We just had Halloween. There's New Year's. And I've kind of figured out what holidays are important for me food wise and which aren't, right? We have, I don't know, however many holidays are in a year or however many weekends and birthdays. And I'm sure, Gemma, like year to year, how many times you're going to celebrate, right? Because know your family, your friends, it doesn't change year to year. For me personally, Thanksgiving, I think, isn't a big dessert day for me. It's more about like the turkey and the stuff. So Thanksgiving is going to be more about being around people and less about food for me. I've chosen that holiday to be less of an indulgent day, if you will. Whereas Christmas for me, Christmas has a lot of food nostalgia for me. And most of the time that's because I spend it with my side of the family, and my side of the family makes delicious cookies and fudge, and we always make snowballs and compare snowballs, and that feeds my emotional self to be with my family.
Love it.
And my aunt likes to feed us those foods, and so Christmas for me is more of an indulgent food day, right?
Yeah.
So I've picked and choose and planned ahead, which holidays I'm going to indulge in and not. And then when the day gets closer to, I'll say like, okay, so on Christmas, I'm going to allow myself this much food and or desserts, and I'm going to eat this for dinner. And then I will go to those events not starving.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. So I'm going to make sure I eat some protein before I go to my family events. So I'm not hungry, and it's easier for me to stick to my plan.
I love that.
So I've planned it out long term. Like I know Christmas is my indulgent day, but then when I get closer, I plan out like what am I going to eat that day? Yeah. And then I eat some protein before I go into the event so I can stick to my plan. The other thing is like I don't do leftovers and take out. Christmas is Christmas. December 26th is not Christmas for me. So I'm not eating the snowballs and the fudge and the whatever else. It's back to a normal day for me.
Well, and for me, it's also like, I love cooking, which I'm thankful for, and it's a creative thing, but it's having those things that, yes, my mom made these and I know they're not healthy, but I'm going to have one or two of them. But for me, finding a healthy option, like whether it's taking the classic recipe and putting healthy twist on it, not adding all the sugar, not adding all the fat, adding a ton more apple than whatever is super. I love that piece, whether it's taking a healthy dish to Thanksgiving or whatever holiday it is, something that I know is my go-to. Like I know I can eat that and I know there's turkey over there. That's the protein that's going to fill me up. And so you're not going in at the whim of whoever is hosting, right? You're going in contributing this healthy item. And I think too, going in with your head held high about that. I have a lot of clients that are like, oh, but I'm the one with the gluten-free thing, or I'm the one that brought this unhealthy thing. And I'm like, don't be ashamed of that. That's a beautiful thing to be able to go in. I mean, like, this is going to nourish your body. So the holidays, that mindset that the holidays are an unhealthy time, it's just a cultural thing. Like it doesn't have to be unhealthy time. Like start the day with a family walk or some, right? Like I love Thanksgiving for those turkey trots. I think that's a beautiful way to start the day. Doesn't mean you can go on a bender later. It just means that you're starting like in the fresh air and energizing yourselves, and then take your healthy dish to Thanksgiving, and you can leave that day feeling energized and not in a food coma,
Yes. Yeah, totally. I love that. The turkey trots. I've oftentimes done a turkey trot, not every year, but I do. I also like to work out the morning of every holiday. Yeah. So I feel good going into it. And good point being bringing in like a healthier dish. I think, people kind of, I don't know why you would not feel confident or proud of yourself for doing that, but I know people do struggle. I think the thing is like, if you keep doing that, people are just going to expect that from you. Like my family at this point knows that I'm not going to eat all the things. They know I want extra vegetables. They know I'm going to bring something healthy. And guess what? Like they still love me. They still talk to me.
Exactly. Right. And you can love you. You don't have to feel guilty with you. You get to be like, I honored my body and the way that I want to feel in my body on this day as well as every other day. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, and I don't like, people bring in, the candied sweet potatoes, and I by no means am going to like turn my nose up to that and be like, why did you bring this? It's just an abundance of food, and it's all nourishment, even the candied yams, it's all on a scale. It's not black and white.
Right. Totally. Well, and I think too, the more that I love clean eating, love, like totally my jam. And the more that I've done it, like the sugary, fatty foods, suddenly you can have like a bite if that's like appeals to you, but suddenly your body just, you don't really even want it the same. So as you like go on this journey with you as a nutrition coach, like some of that stuff will just naturally fall away because your body is suddenly like, oh, just give me protein and a clean veg. I don't even want the whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I could talk to you about nutrition and coaching all day long, but
For
I
sure.
will start to move us along. And let's wrap up with, how do people find you? Like if people are like, oh yes, I need Sarah in my life, what's the best way for them to find you?
I had like a 9 to 5 job and I just recently transitioned. I'm a coach. Like this is my 9 to 5 job. So I'm debating about different methods for people to find me. But
Yeah.
I also really want to be approachable and be myself. And so generally people can just find me on Facebook, Sarah Gettis. They can find me on Instagram. They can have my email address or might text me, like however people feel most comfortable reaching out to me. They could ask you, like, how do I reach Sarah? And you could give them my phone number.
And I'll put all of that in the show notes so that whatever makes the most sense. I love that. And I think there's so much to be said about just being approachable, right? They connect with you, reach out and just get into the coaching process. Don't let all of the admin-y stuff get in the way of that, you know?
Yeah, I don't really like a lot of red tape. I think if people just reach out and they're like, hey, I'm curious, and I have free consultations. So it's just like a time for people to like ask questions, for us to get to know each other and to see if it would be a good fit or not. Nothing lost on either end.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, 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 yes. Well, is there
Yeah.
anything that you wanted to touch on that I haven't brought up?
I don't think so. I think I just really hope that I can inspire in people that food is fun and like food is their friend.
Love that. Well, I like to end with my question about vibrant living. Flowing from the inside out is my mantra. Are there a couple of individuals or businesses or around here locally that have inspired you on your journey?
Well, it's right. So in Coeur d'Alene, so actually I have a nutrition coach and there's AIM Nutrition in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
Now, their style of coaching is different than mine. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And I like my style of coaching, but they've inspired me a lot because they're run by a woman and she's a CrossFit gal and they have several coaches and they're just great. And then there's so many little like great little like shops around here though. Like I love the Wellness Bar and we'll eat at Cosmic Cowboy or there's so many different little like restaurants around town that I know are kind of making their food from scratch and whatnot. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Have your go-tos, right? So when you don't want to be the cook, you know where to go. And
Yes.
I love that you have a coach too, because I also have a coach. And I just think that is so powerful to be like, coaches have coaches. We believe in the importance of it and let someone hold the space for you to explore and have a down day and just have someone to listen to what you're saying and bounce it back at you, because you can't really do that for yourself, right? Just build that community to like set yourself up for success. For sure.
100%. Totally agreed. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it and love this conversation.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This was super fun.
If you like this podcast, I want to invite you to coach with me. Let's ditch the autopilot living to slow down, tune in, reset, and redesign your life to glow from the inside out based on the beautiful being who you are, what matters to you, and how you want to dance through this life. I help you understand your self-sabotaging ways, programmed thinking, and tendencies to outsource your power, and reshape them to align with the true you for this chapter of your life. To join me in a complimentary coaching session, go to my website, www.gemmaputty.com. Sending all the love, light, and vibrancy. Until next time.